Happy 4th of July, and today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded July 1st, 2018, and it's titled Freedom, Affirming, I am free to live as I choose. And today we welcome the spirit, voice, and artistry of Margaret Owens. Come visit us at seasidecenter.org, and you can join us in Encinitas, California sometime, where we always have great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that await you.
So you can just feel that presence. And so one of the things I love about the 4th of July is just reminds me about freedom. And freedom is that spiritual quality I really attempt to exemplify and to live in my life, free from any of the challenges. The God qualities I go to bed or fall asleep every night saying and waking up to is grace and gratitude. I am grateful. I am thankful. I live in grace. But how I want to live my life is with a sense of freedom. And I feel that's a real important quality to Ernest Holmes. It's got to be. I mean, on the very first page of his book, The Science of Mind, he uses the word freedom 6 times. And I read this almost every year at the beginning of the year because I love it so much. It's about freedom. It's being free from the challenges, the difficulties, the constraints, the limitation, you name it. It is living the God qualities of the grace and the joy and the self-expression. And freedom really is that foundational expression in which I want to live. And so I love the 4th of July because it reminds me of that. And I thought I would start by reading the very first page from Ernest Holmes' book, who's the founder of religious science, on page 25 for all you textbook-toting metaphysicians out there. You may want to follow along. And so Ernest writes from his chapter on the thing itself. Max, a little music in the background. Let's get this really good. Let's get a little dramatics going. Individuality must be spontaneous. It can never be automatic. For the seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being. For the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this, don't you? A little more than the first service, not many. 7 of us instinctively feel this. And the truth points to freedom under the law. Thus, our inherent quality is that we are forever seeking to express ourselves in terms of freedom. And we would do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life that is wonderful in scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves. Freedom is an important quality. Let us not be stuck or bound by any of the challenges that we find going on in our life.
All right. Well, we want to introduce our wonderful guest artist today. She's phenomenal singer, phenomenal person, and we just love it when she's here. I'll tell you a little bit about some things. Since she's been here last, she's released 3 new CDs, including a New Thought dance CD, which she calls Sweatin' to the Truth. Love that. We'll love it. Sweat to the Truth. If you want to check out where she's going to be outside of here, check out her website, margaretowens.com. She has music with her. And without further ado, please help me welcome Margaret Owens.
So much to adore. You're so beautiful. got its blessings. Every season has its time. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're downright beautiful. In a million different ways. Sing it with me. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're outright beautiful. And I'm gratefully amazed at the wonder of your majesty, your effortless surprise. Lightning strikes of inspiration, or the birth of a sunrise. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're just damn beautiful. In a million different ways. You're so beautiful. You're gosh darn beautiful. You're outright beautiful. In a million different ways. Let me hear it. You're so beautiful. Look at your neighbor. You're so beautiful. You're downright beautiful. Let's keep it going. And I'm gratefully amazed. Let me hear it. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. You're downright beautiful. In a million different ways. You're so beautiful. You're downright beautiful. You're so darn beautiful. You're so
Hey, that is Margaret Owens reminding us what we are. My goodness, thank you, Margaret. 3 CDs since we've seen you last. Wow, that is just prolific. That's a lot of work, a lot of studio time. I look forward to hearing them, that's for sure. Thank you. You're so beautiful. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm not the first to tell you today, I'll bet. But it's true about you. Anyway, hey, today, freedom, as you heard me talking about it, I love that topic, freedom. It allows us to just be who we are and experience that to the fullest. And sometimes it takes some rest to get back in touch with, what it is that's going on. Callie and I just got back from a wonderful time down at our place in Costa Rica. And it's wonderful going down there. Up until just a couple years ago, there wasn't even a paved road to our house. That's how secluded it was down there. And it's not that far. But now we got roads and we got signs too. But the signs aren't quite the same kind of signs we have here. The church is advertising and they've got these different signs around town. You may have heard some of the sayings, but one of them says, "Have you read my bestseller?" Signed, God. Happy hour every Sunday, 9 and 11. Signed, God. I want full custody of my children, not just the weekends. God. Here's one. Why didn't Noah swat those 2 mosquitoes? God. And this one I liked was, and these signs are just all over town. They pop up. It's great advertising. But this one said, "Our lifeguard walks on water." God. And another one was, "If you love Jesus, honk. If you want to meet him, text." And let's see, last one. This was actually from the yacht club down the street. It says, "Time sure flies when you're having rum." So anyway, I could tell we were just in a different place down there. And when we came back, it's always a little shock re-entering. You just don't have the same kind of energy and intensity. So yesterday I went up and visited a dear friend of Seaside's, charter member of Seaside's actually, who just in the last week went into hospice, and they brought in the hospital bed. And it's a tough situation for sure. And I brought all your love. Whenever I go visit somebody, I always say, bring love everybody from Seaside, so your love is there. But afterwards, I get on the freeway up in Oceanside by the lagoon. Now, do you know the 5 going south on a Saturday afternoon along the beach in the summertime in the North County of San Diego? You would not recommend that to your worst enemies, And so here I am coming from this very tranquilo, that's the word, tranquilo, a place where there's not even roads. And now I'm stuck in this gridlock, hot, sticky traffic, and I could feel my energy no longer having the Pura Vita vibe, just starting to escalate and allow myself to get upset. And then I just remembered who I was with in their hospital bed and thought, wouldn't they give just about anything to be out in a convertible on the highway, driving along the coast in North County of San Diego, even if it was traffic? Yes, and in that moment, everything shifted for me. But also what was profound was the realization is that we are always free to make a choice or a decision. I can stay all stressed out, or I can choose to have a different perspective here. I can enter into a new world or a new kind of thinking or a new kind of place when I choose to exercise the freedom that I have been given. Because we're always given that freedom to remain stuck in our despair or our limitedness or our challenge and blame it on physical, blame it on the outside, or we can say, I am free and I no longer need to be there. I'm going to a new land here. So during the 4th of July, I often go back to the early days before people were actually here. And I think about probably the boys and girls, if you would, young folks, probably like young folks of today. It's strange how that goes. But I'm thinking about them at the end of their day, sitting around together, whether it's around the fire, just kind of shooting, just chewing on the end of the day kind of activities. Oh, wasn't school rough? Or boy, work was hard. The end of the day, drink. We got to get out of here. I'm fed up with living with my parents here. Highest hopes are probably, if you got lucky, your dad would pass on their profession to you. Maybe somebody would mentor you. But besides that, you're hanging out where you're pretty much, there's not many options, except there's this new place. It's called America. And it's a land of opportunity. It's a place where they say everybody is equal. And so they're all saying, let's get out of here. The young is, I think the saying is long in thought. They can do something now and it may take a long time for it to manifest, but I'm not I may be in a rush, but I'm going to get there. The long thought of the season of youth. Remember that? I don't care if it takes years. So anyway, they're sitting there and maybe it took a few years for a handful. Everybody wants out of there. But in that conversation, there's only going to be a few that are actually going to do it, And out of those few that actually get on the boat, there's only, I understand it was a rough passage over. So only a handful of those that left actually arrived. Now, I want us to grasp the concept of the seed of our being, of America, is those rugged individuals who sat around and said, hey, I don't want this old world anymore, because they talk about the old world, right? Don't people talk about the old world back there in those days? And they talk about the new world. And people who come from the old country still say, boy, everything is so young and youthful here. Well, it's because it's the new world. And everything back there is, old. Old world. And it's not chronologically young. It's just there's a young thought. There's a thought of possibilities. There is a youthfulness. There is a heart that's involved. And the seed of our being came from that. It came from those individuals who came on over here. And all of a sudden there began to be a birth. And people sitting out here on the East Coast say, hey, let's go west. Talk about crazy. Going west. You put all your stuff in a wagon, or what they call the prairie schooners, your pots, your pans, and a couple other things, and you just head across. Now that's adventure. That's a new world. That's a new possibilities. It's symbolic. But with that newness that was taking place, it also had to outpicture on the outside. There was this new belief in the spiritual possibilities and the greater possibilities, and all of a sudden it had to begin to show up in the government. All of a sudden it began to show up in ways that honored people for who they are and the gifts and their uniqueness and their diversity, that we were all born equal, that we're all, the Second Amendment is to, have our own, the religion of our choice, and we're in a land of infinite possibilities. But I want us also to get here is that America was the reflection of something that was taking place in consciousness at the time. because you had this guy who somehow got a boat to find a new passage to India. They got closed down. When Constantinople fell, the trade route, the spice route, the silk route, whatever you call that, went from Europe, through Turkey and Iran, Afghanistan into Asia, was closed down. The Roman Empire finally lost their last stranglehold. And so this kid says, hey, I'm going to find a new route to India, to the east. And I'm glad he wasn't the captain of my boat, because he ended up on the entirely different side of the world, over, wherever it was, El Salvador. But there was a representation of something that was percolating in consciousness. There was a new kind of freedom. There was a new kind of something that was beginning to emerge. The Renaissance was going on in the 1500s, 1600s. You had the Reformation that took place. You had eventually the Industrial Revolution. You had the French Revolution. You had the 13 colonies having a revolution. Now, all these things are going on in different places, but all of them were part of a consciousness that ended up showing up like America, because this new form of living, this new form of all are born equal, where it was not just a divine appointment of a king who can make the absolute dictations and was the authority of the land. All of a sudden, there was this new idea that couldn't birth itself in France or in Germany, because the old world was stuck. It was stuck in their ways. And there is a place that happened to be the new Atlantis, or the new world, or America, that began to be the land of opportunities and possibilities for the newness to come forward. And this is where we are. We got planted with the seeds of some of the strongest stock that believed in the possibility of being free from the old way, free from the fear, free from what was told it had to be, and say there is a higher authority, and it is not a king, and it is not the aristocrats. It is a spirit, and we're all equal in that. Now we go, of course, but this was radical in those days. It was something that was new. And so people begin to speak it or step out, and the voice goes, ah! The fear says, you can't get on that boat to go to that new land. You can't step away from that situation that has carried you this far. And the thing about fear that I've come to notice is it speaks first, and it speaks loudest. And it's like, hello, I'm taking up all your headspace. And that's the old world that's talking here. And so what you got to do is clear. You got to step away. And the way we teach doing that is through our meditation. It's getting quiet. It's entering into the stillness. Entering into that place where you feel the presence in your life, where you connect and you allow that. Because the thing with spirit is that it doesn't impose itself. Right? You've got this loud fear voice going. It says, hey, run your tapes, dude. Go ahead. Sit limited, stuck in that dark, drab, tired at the end of the day kind of work thing, knowing there is nothing else you can do with your life. Or get quiet and listen to what your dharma is, or your purpose, or your possibility, or what brings you joy, or what is your passion. As you begin to listen, you can feel the spirit stirring in your heart and soul. You need to give that mind a rest. Just like your body needs rest, so does your mind. You need to clear that space so you can get rid of the crud. And sometimes that crud doesn't want to get rid of. Doesn't want to be gotten rid of. It is stuck. Kind of like, you ever have a frying pan and you just get stuck to it and you can't scrub it off? Well, I, on occasions, have been known to really mess up pans in our house. And what I have come to discover is that, I stick that pan under soapy water and I let it sit all night. I let that pan just soak in those soap suds overnight, and all that hard stuff that's baked on begins to lose its grip and come up, at least in theory. But that's like what meditation is. It's like soaking yourself overnight in that ever-abiding expression of God, so it can get rid of that crud that doesn't want to let go of its grasp or its hold, that old world thinking, the old models of being, the prognoses and the diagnoses, and all the fear things that are speaking so loud in your head. You just soak it in the divine overnight, and all of a sudden in the morning it's going to be floating in the pan. Go, yeah, and you throw it out. Yeah. That's what meditation is like. It creates the space. Because I'll tell you what, spirit is everywhere. But unless you're available, like I said, it's not imposing. It doesn't force its will upon us. You got to be available. It's like, imagine walking down this beautiful white sand beach in Costa Rica. The fish are jumping. The pelicans are diving. The swifts are flying high and soaring above everything. The howler monkeys are howling. And you just live in the Pura Vida vibe. Except your head's still back here in San Diego. And you're walking along the beach with your beloved in your hand, and you're missing out on it all because I'm thinking, oh no, I got this, I got to take care of it. I had that, I didn't take care of that. Oh, what's happening with the finances? What's going on? And all of a sudden, you are in heaven, but you're not there. That's what our head and our mind can do. And that's why it's important to begin to learn how to take a break and to rest in spirit so we can give our mind a sense, so we can be with the presence of God. But we've got to be willing to let go of the things in our head. But a lot of times, rather than going to God and say, hey, take this, it's like, I'm kind of embarrassed that I've gone there with this. It's like, if I show this to God, or, oh man, it's because some of us got brought up with this judgmental God. An angry God, that God's really pissed off because I did this kind of thing. Now, am I really going to expose myself to a judgmental kind of something like that? Because what I have done, or what we have done, is we have created God in our image. Anger, resentful, judgmental. That's not what spirit is. Spirit that created all things doesn't want to make us suffer for our mistakes. It's looking for atonement. It's looking for forgiveness. We've got to be willing to be with spirit. You go to a doctor for a checkup. What do? You take your clothes off, right? The doctor does the checkup. No problem. You go to God for a little bit of healing. Well, I'm not going to show God this. You got to get naked with God. You got to expose yourself to that spirit and allow yourself to be seen, because there is nothing you could have done that would diminish your wonderful relationship and your inheritance and your magnificence. Or as we're singing, you're so beautiful to God, to this life force, to this divine presence. We have got to be willing to move beyond that. How would you feel if the doctor came swinging in and stayed there for about 5 minutes and swung out? I'd feel kind of ripped off. It's like I didn't get my chance to really explain what's going on here, how I feel, what it's happened in the body, and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's what we're doing with spirit. A little 5-minute meditation, call that good? Okay. Maybe I read a book last year. Of course, it was Living from the Mountaintop, but. But, that's the thing. We kind of swing in and swing out for little 5-minute spots with spirit. You've got to get naked with God more than occasionally. You've got to live continuously in that connectedness, in that ongoingness, that regularity of Sundays and small groups and communication and delving and in sharing and expressing that. You want to experience freedom in your life, you can't get caught up in keeping yourself defended. You've got to be willing to become active in that. You don't just go to the gym once, work out, and you walk out all buffed and good to go. Give me my bathing suit. Here I am. It doesn't work like that. You've got to continue to use your practice, your discipline, to get the body ready, to get the soul, the consciousness, the spirit, the mind, and the body. It's like as above, so below. You've got to get it all ready in shape, because as you develop that spiritual stamina, you are then able to stand strong in your faith in those moments of controversy. In those moments that said, you know what? We're all created equal. Now that's a no-brainer this day and age. But back in the founding of this country, those individuals looking for greater freedom were able to stand strong in their faith and say that we are all created equal. We're all entitled to live that American dream, to step into the land of infinite possibilities, to know that the omnipresence offers it all the time. We've got to be able to find the spiritual stamina, so when somebody says it's this and it just doesn't resonate with your truth, that you're able to say, whoa, wait a second. I don't think so. We can't avoid that, because if it's going on, avoidance is not the way you move through things. I know enough people say, I just don't watch the news. I'm sticking my head in the sand and it's not going on. Now that's really a mature approach, isn't it? I'm pretending it's not going on. Yesterday, There were over 600 marches in support to keep families together in this country. No, we are told that the reason to separate them was biblical. The only thing biblical about that for anyone is the pharaohs who took the children away from their parents, the pharaohs of the Egyptians, and Pontius Pilate. But anybody who knows the Bible knows it is family value, and it is a foundation, is one of love, and that is what it continues to go through that. And anyone who tries to tell you different is not using that in a way to bring about greater good. It is about knowing that we can take a stand and say, you know what, family is the core value of this country. It is what it has been based upon. And to take children away from their parents, imagine if your child was taken from you. Now, you talk about torture. People would rather have their physical being abused than have their child taken away from them. That is torture that is going on. We have laws that said people who are seeking to escape abuse and gangs and rape are given the opportunity for asylum in our country. At least there was a law up until recently that this is where we were an accepting kind of place. And never would children be used as political pawns to separate things, to create fear. That is not an American value. This is a new land of freedom and possibilities. And there is our community spiritual leader. We put it, I think, on my website or my Facebook, from Dr. Ken Gordon, stating the position of our movement about keeping our families together. But he wrote it in solidarity and just gave the other websites of the Jewish Coalition, of the Jewish Orthodox statement, of the Methodist statement, of the Lutherans, of the Catholic. It is across the board. It's not what we do. And people say, well, you're getting political. I'm not getting political. That is moral. That is integrity. That is taking a stand in the faith of what it is that we believe. Yeah. And so we can say we've changed laws, but until those 2,000 plus more children are back with their families, and those children will now have been damaged, created with fear, and have to live with such attention the rest of their life that damage is for generations to come. When you separate children from family, it creates a disenfranchisement. When you take away parental influence, what it does is it creates a greater possibility for the criminal aspect. It creates greater difficulties in the family relationships that are going forward. It's just short-sighted. It is about love, it is about the foundation, and it is about the freedom to be able to express our love and our caring, and to be able to stand up when we see that has been violated, and to stand up as a community, because our nation is about the many into one. You know, all those different places where this new idea was being birthed, whether it was in France or whether it was with the Reformation or whether it was with the Renaissance, you know, it was many different places that represented the one. Our country has been governed not by an authoritarian figure, but rather it is a representation. It is governed by those that are governed who have put that leadership into place. And we've got to continue to speak our voice. We've got to continue to step out and allow ourselves to be heard, because we have been given the freedom from prosecution or persecution or whatever that is that allows us to speak out, because we have found ourselves seated deeply in the divine and allowing ourselves to be a place, because I choose to meditate when I am bombarded with fear, because fear is not really what is the prevailing upon this planet. We may be fed by the media outlets that fear is what is prevailing, but I'll tell you what, there is so much good, there is so much love, there is so much transformation, there are so many new ideas, there is so much positive things going on in the world, that as we begin to take our focus and put it, because we have been given the freedom, not because isn't this sad I'm stuck in traffic, but isn't this great that I have the freedom to choose to enjoy this moment, this day, not because I am stuck in the fear-based old world kind of mentality, but I'm going to move my awareness to the new world possibilities of that youthful, long thought, greater opportunities that are seeking expression through all people of all ages at all times, no matter what country one comes from. We are all equal expressions of that divine that is seeking us to be used by. Ernest Holmes, as you know, he is the founder of our philosophy. our faith. It's a way of life. More than it's a religion, it's more spirituality. But Ernest Holmes wrote in 1937, as we enter into the spirit of the meaning of the U.S. Independence Day, the day when liberty symbolically was conceived and the day when freedom objectively in our country was announced, we should think of it not merely as a political system or a form of government. We should think of it as a spiritual conception, an idea in the mind of God itself, taking form in the human experience. We should learn to love that liberty, and in loving the idea, we should learn to tenderly and prayerfully handle the embodiment of that idea and nurture it always to greater strength. We should really conceive again the great spiritual conception of that rugged man of God who said that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall nourish and shall not... I'm going to read that again. The government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. That was what that great guy said way back then. So how does that happen? I think our parents left us a great statement of that. And you can find it on all of our monetary exchange, which says, in God we trust. That's how we do it. In God we trust. Imagine if you had one message to pass on to your kids. Wouldn't it be great to say, in God we trust? Remember, Shakey's Pizza had that sign up. In God we trust, everyone else pays cash. But no, in God we trust. Also, on the Great Seal of America that was conceived and scratched out in 1776 and eventually made its way officially. But it says, E pluribus unum, which means out of the many, one. You got that? That is this is the message that is in the beak of the eagle of our Great Seal. The eagle, that which flies above the challenges and the difficulties as it soars high and looks out and sees all things. And not the Persian eagle, not the Egyptian eagle, not the Austrian two-headed eagle, not the eagle with the crown on it, but the American bald-headed eagle. Bald-headed. You take a look at those monk guys, man. They shave their heads. They're bald so they can be closer to God. It is in the beak of the Great Seal. It is E pluribus unum, which is out of the many, out of the 13 colonies, we have one great nation. Out of the many individuals from all over this planet, we have one great nation. Out of the one comes the many. Ernest Holmes talks about unity and multiplicity. Out of the one comes the many. The many make up the one. Ernest talks about all change takes place within the changeless. These are strange concepts. They're paradoxes, but you get it. Out of the many, there's the one. Out of the many facets, you have the diamond. It takes all of us and our unique expressions, our diverse expressions, to be embraced, to be loved, to be honored. That fills out the picture, that fills out the tapestry. Out of the many comes the one. From the one comes the many. It goes back and forth like that. And then on the base of the pyramid, it says, Novus Ordum Seclorum. That's close. Novus Ordum Seclorum, which means a new order of the ages. It's not the conspiracy theorists who say a new world order. Seclorum is a plural, meaning ages. A new order for the ages is what it says. A new order. They knew what America meant. America was not something that just happened here. It was probably one of the most significant recent happenings in humanity's history. That is what we are celebrating here. A history that says we are free. We are not caught to the dictate of an authoritative figure on the outside that has been blessed from on high to make up these rules as they fit and send us off to go die or whatever it is they feel like doing. We are all created equal, and we have the freedom to stay stuck in traffic and be upset, or we have the freedom to get on and moving in life. I look at the kids out on the beach playing gleefully. It's like, wow. Yeah. Do I know something they don't know? No, I think they know something I forgot. They know something that's very special. that allows them to be innocent and to believe, to have the long thought, the greater possibility to be in the presence of joy. Because I'll tell you what, our normal thought, right underneath that normal thought, is that infinite love, is that sense of peace, is the tranquillo, the pura vita. It's like, it's all, I just saw it. I was just there. It's all there. And the reality of the divine is that it's ever available, but it's not imposing itself. You've got to take the time in the meditation to connect. You've got to spend as much time with Spirit as you would want your doctor to spend with you. You've got to go there and allow yourself to be available to it and recognize that as soon as you attack or you get defensive, love leaves. Yeah. As long as you are finding someone guilty and holding it against another human being, what happens is there goes love. It's not there. If all of a sudden you start believing in limited possibilities, you're stuck after work saying, oh, it doesn't get any better than this. You've shut yourself off to miracles. The possibility of miracles is gone. See, Spirit's not caught up with large and small. It expresses through the many. The one expresses through the many. And it's just looking for those that want to have space for a greater expression. You can get caught up in perpetuating your fear, the verdict, the prognosis, whatever you want, or you can choose to be free enough to choose a new thought because there is space for a greater possibility in your life. That is what freedom is all about. You can talk about grace and you can wake up every day with gratitude and cast that vibration and step into the grace and find that you have freedom. Or you can choose to talk about these things and not have the experience and not begin to practice it because you're holding on to the old order, the old thought, the old world, the old way of being. I love this poem. It's old. It's been used a lot. I think I even put it in the foundation class, but I haven't been able to find it lately. So I'm sharing it. As children bring their broken toys with tears for us to mend, I brought my broken dreams to God because he was my friend. But then, instead of leaving him in peace to work alone, I hung around and tried to help with ways that were my own. And at last, I snatched them back and cried, "How could you be so slow?" "My child," he said, "what could I do? You never did let go." We may feel like we're alone and we've got a rough go of it. But also on the back of that dollar bill, the Great Seal, is the capstone of the pyramid of the all-seeing eye. And that all-seeing eye is not Big Brother from 1984. That is the all-seeing eye of God. The one that has that higher view, that can see all things, that is everywhere, that is omnipresent, that is ever available. We are the ones that have made ourselves unavailable to the new world. We'd rather stay at home and complain than to take that risk like those hardy souls that crossed the North Atlantic originally. We might beat ourselves up for the mistakes, but Columbus, it turned out okay for him. It's like we get to decide that all-seeing eye of God. I think Jesus said, let the eye be single so the light may fill the body. Let your eye be single so that you can see as Spirit sees, that you do not need to feel you're stuck in gridlock in life, that you cannot get out of where you are. With Spirit, all things are possible. And the beautiful dream of America, the land of infinite possibilities, the American dream where all people are equal, a land where our ancestors came over. My grandparents came on over on the boat. They were born, I think, in the 1880s, and they listened to their stories. It was just amazing, the heralding, journey that they made. It is truly, if we allow the Americans to guide America, to allow our voice to govern our governors, if we allow ourselves to speak up, to march, whether we're one of those 600 marches that took place yesterday, if we are willing to stand because we have the spiritual endurance, because we have meditated, we have connected, and we know the presence presence of God that I can stand with a sense of faith? You can't climb 2 or 3 flights of stairs if your body's not in shape. Well, you can't make a spiritual stance on faith if you haven't the spiritual stamina and endurance. And as you continue to do your spiritual practices and spend more time with Spirit, that you find that you will have what is needed when it is needed in your life, because you are standing upon a rock of Spirit, being part of this new emerging order of the ages that is coming through you, through the many. You are one of the many in which that talks about. You are one of the many of God's multiple expressions. The many facets of the diamond is what you are. And so when we allow Americans to guide America, because not that other places have done it wrong, they did it in their time, but it is our time to make the difference for humanity, to stand on those moral rights and to stand with our integrity and to stand on the spiritual principles that birthed this country from a bunch of brave, rugged individuals, which is our heritage and our stock and our ancestry, that we can stand in the light and the love and the glory of God and speak that which we know is the truth in the face of that which appears different. God bless us on this birthday as we do this together. Hey, let's keep it going as we bring Margaret Owens back to the stage.
I paused in the light of morning and let you shine on me a while. I could feel your power upon me and the sweet warmth of your rays that made me smile. And all the blades of the grass stood shimmering as if they understood to be effortlessly bathed in your blessings is very, very good. And so it is, and so it shall be. We don't have to justify any more than the lilies of the field or the bird in flight has to bloom or has to fly. They do it 'cause they're called to. They do it 'cause it's what they've come here to be. And the moment you serve your own heart is the moment you are free. How strange that we toil and labor in guilt and blame and compromise, driven by the voice of doubt which drowns out what the inner truth belies. If we could just breathe and feel and listen to the lover's constant beat, God's the host of this great banquet and has invited us to eat. And so it is, and so it shall be. We don't have to justify any more than the lilies of the field or the bird in flight has to bloom or has to fly. They do it 'cause they're called to. They do it 'cause it's what they've come here to be. And the moment you serve your own heart is the moment you are free. There is enough, and there there is no need, only endless supply of the good that surrounds us, and it's so freeing to know that we're love and here to navigate the river of well-being. And so it is, and so it shall be. We don't have to justify any more than the lilies of the field or the bird in flight has to bloom or has to fly. They do it 'cause they're called to. They do it 'cause it's what they've come here to be. And the moment you serve your own heart is the moment you are free.
This is Margaret Owens.